Welcome back to another session of Looking for Work. My name is Mike Roberts. If you have not joined before, you're in for a doozy. We're going to spend about maybe as long as an hour talking about how to land your first job in tech, answering questions. And so the way this works is I usually spend the first few moments looking down just to make sure that we are live on LinkedIn. And once I'm sure of that, then, which we are, then I turn 100% of my focus towards helping folks out. So like I said, I'll spend a little while. We do this every Tuesday, answering questions. So if you've got a question about what the process is to land your first gig, then please throw it in the comment box, and that will immediately send the message to me. I'll get an instant message, or it's not quite instant. It's delayed a little bit, but that'll get the comment to me. You can ask a question, and then I will do my best to try and answer it. So that's how this works. Let me do this really quickly. Let me add a little crawler, because I think that helps people understand that at any point in time, just drop your question in there, put a comment, and I will answer it. Love getting interactive and helping folks. So that's sort of the point of this whole thing. A little bit about my background. I am a software engineer by trade, I usually say. And I like using that term because it helps people understand more of the other piece that I do now, which is apprenticeships. And I'm a real big advocate for people with experience, creating an opportunity to teach people that are a little bit newer and entry level in the career field, and being able to create an opportunity for people to earn and learn, get paid while they're working towards a higher level of competency, proficiency in a skill or trade. And when we use that term, I think people will better appreciate that it's very similar to the model that we have with, electricians or carpenters, plumbers, where you typically go through some classroom training and then you spend a lot of time on the job, learning the skills and learning how you complete tasks by somebody that's a pro, that's been doing it for a while and can teach all the little hacks and the workarounds and the fixes that you're going to actually see out in the space. I think this is a perfect opportunity for us to reimagine the apprenticeship pattern for these jobs, the future of work type jobs that we're seeing a lot of automation and software engineering and data engineering, just a lot of technology. And so for people that are on the path and are trying to figure out how do you translate that skill that you're getting into some real world dollars, a paycheck, hit me up. Throw a message in the chat, or you can send me an email, mike@cccareers.org, and I'd be more than happy to read it, do my best to respond. That's how this works. We do it every week, right here on all of the different big social media platforms. So right now we're simulcasting this across Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Periscope, and Twitch. So if you know somebody that you think this would be super helpful for, if you're in my network, please be sure to share this with resources and people that you think this could be helpful. So I know a lot of people in higher ed. I know a lot of folks at like the adult schools, in the apprenticeship sort of space, as well as people that are, in the discovery phase, and they're trying to figure out, is software engineering, is coding the thing for them? And feel free to share it. I'm more than happy to have conversations with people, especially via this medium where people can learn from the questions that other people have and really figure out, like, oh, I'm not the only person that's trying to deal with this. And it's not an intuitive process. And it's definitely something where, with experience, I've helped hundreds of graduates of immersive coding boot camps and coding academies get their foot in the door. And there are definitely ways that you can do this efficiently. There are ways that it'll be a little harder, take a little bit longer. So, yeah, no questions yet. So that usually means that people are just like listening to me talk, and they haven't formed a question, or you formed it and you typed it and it just takes a minute or so for it to come through. So I'm eagerly awaiting some questions, because I feel like that's the doing it live part that we all enjoy. Hopefully everybody's off to a good week. So far this week, it's been a little overcast here in San Diego. We're not getting our apportioned appropriate amount of sunshine that we pay good tax money for. So it's nice that it's cooler, though. It has been nice kind of moving into the spring with, a little overcast, nice and cool weather. And I enjoy a little bit of variety, but I'm ready for it to get a little bit sunnier. And we're not in June yet, and we've got some June gloom, and it's 12 o'clock, so I'm not supposed to have any of that. So yeah, so what's everybody else working on? I feel like everybody I'm talking to lately has been saying there's a labor shortage, and maybe that's the case. Maybe I'm shouting at the wind, and no one is on my looking for work live session because everybody's got jobs. Maybe that's the optimistic side of things. I have felt it. I have felt that postings seem to be taking a little bit longer, and not as many candidates. When we posted positions, we have several open positions right now. It is interesting. There's just not as many candidates applying, not as much attention, etc. So, good question. So, question from Kaya: how long does it typically take for you to click in your new job? Okay, so there's kind of two parts to it, I think. The first is for you to understand sort of the business aspect of things, and that can take a little while. So I remember when I started at Zito, which was one of the last startups that I worked at. And when I went in and started at Zito, I used to tell people, I asked them in the first week what kind of tests that they do, and they were just like, "What? We do all kinds of experiments and split tests and A/B tests and multivariate tests." And I'm talking like integration and end-to-end and unit tests, and they're like, "What are those?" At least on the front end team. The back end team, obviously, they had a lot of that stuff nailed. But the front end team, we were speaking two different languages. And so it took me a while. It took me, and I was a senior software engineer, principal engineer. And it took me 6 months, I'd say, for me to really understand what is the business that they do and some of the unique language and the sort of their jargon that they use inside of their shop, inside of that particular industry, ad technology, ad tech. And so I would say you should expect that it's going to take you maybe 6 months for you to, really get the business. And then it'll help you to accelerate the adoption of understanding the code base and all the other parts. And then the last piece to this, I think, for folks is when they say the click. I think that, and maybe correct me if I'm wrong, that might mean you're expecting one day that it's just sort of like you can kind of do it on autopilot and you don't need as much really thought in order to accomplish your goal. And unfortunately, software engineering doesn't usually work that way. It's something where it's going to be lifelong learning. It's going to be a constant state of being a little uncomfortable and a little on edge that you don't quite know everything, but you'll just get faster at it. So Greg LeMond, famous American cyclist, I love cycling. His quote is, "It never gets easier. You only go faster." So I would use that to when am I going to really start accelerating on the job? When am I going to really get to the point where I'm going to be knocking out a lot of work and feeling like I'm being super productive? And that, I think, is a reasonable expectation to have right around that 6 month mark. When you've been in a shop, you've been heads down, you've been working quite a bit. You're starting to get the customers and you're starting to kind of understand the nature of the business, and things are starting to kind of accelerate and clicking. And now, you're grabbing tickets off the backlog and you're getting stuff done and you're not introducing defects and all that stuff. So hopefully that helps. Samita, good to see you as well. How are you? James, my man. So James runs a little shop, a nice little WordPress shop up in the Bay Area, and I believe they have some shops maybe in the Midwest. And James, so it's Red 8 Interactive, and they have a product called Innately. So if you are a business and you're looking for a sort of a turnkey, you get a website up and you want to be able to just crush it and have it on autopilot and not have to worry about hiring a team and going. Innately is a pretty slick solution to getting your WordPress websites up, getting your digital presence, and not having to not have to worry about it hitting your wallet as hard as hiring an agency to do a custom build. So talk to my man James. I know they've been doing that. They've been doing that innately for a while, and I'm excited to see it. I remember when Innately was just an idea. So James is looking for a mid-level, the mythical mid-level, I like to call it, because at mid-level, it's kind of tough because as an individual, it's great. When you're at a mid-level, you're really kind of in the real good driver's seat because you got enough experience where you're adding value to an organization. You're usually not unemployed because folks don't necessarily have the spend, and they can hire a senior engineer. And folks, generally speaking, want someone that has a little bit more experience than an entry-level developer. So the person that's almost in the most demand is that mid-level engineer. They're in that Goldilocks. They're not too expensive. They're not too cheap. They can get things done. And so they tend to stick around and be at a shop for a little while. And then they become seniors. It's like overnight. Someone dangles just the right amount of money, and suddenly they're a senior engineer somewhere, right? So that window is kind of short and tight. So that mythical mid-level developer, it's hard to find. They're tough. They're a tough commodity out there. And so I'm with you, James. I would like to see more mid-level developers out of the marketplace. So let's bake some. Let's take some entry-level folks, give them a year of experience, get them into shops, and then get one more year of experience. We could safely call those mid-level WordPress developers. If they can get a lot of reps in 2 years, and they go to work for James, they're going to make that happen. So shout out to Mr. Hipkin. It's good to see you. Kaya. Nice. All right. Marcus. Yes. I appreciate giving the information. It's just fun to be able to just help people out. So thanks for following. And James, training people up. Okay, so now you're speaking my language. We need to connect. We need to reconnect. We're almost safe to travel. It might be a good idea for me to get up there to the Bay and see if we can do something virtually until then. I'll reach out to you afterwards. Let's set up a time to reconnect. It's been a minute. I remember James was back in the day sending me projects. It's good times. Yeah. So if you are a entry level, you're early on in your career, you're thinking about, what it is you should be maybe changing about your process. How do you go about landing that first gig? Drop a comment in there. The comments will come to me, and when it is phrased in the question form with question mark at the end of it, I'll do my best to try and answer it. Yeah, I'm feeling pretty bullish on a few of the things that we're working on, so I can share a couple of those. We are excited to be launching a pre-apprenticeship program really soon. So the pre-apprenticeship program is going to be an opportunity for folks it won't cost anything out of pocket. But there is going to be an option if you want to pay for it up front. You can pay the tuition up front, or you can pay when you get a job later on. But it's going to allow people that have no experience at all, zero experience, to gain all the fundamental experience that they need to be ready for our apprenticeship program, which is pretty intense. So it's kind of like a little boot camp within a boot camp. It's like the pre to our apprenticeship. And so excited that we have that almost ready to go. I think we'll be launching that this time next month. And so be on the lookout for that. Major announcements that are going to come out within the next several weeks. And then we've got another cohort. I know everybody gets excited when we talk about cohorts. We got another cohort of apprenticeships that will be starting a little bit later, towards the end of the summer. And super excited to talk about that because people have been asking me since winter, when is the next cohort starting? I get that message at least twice a day. Someone will directly reach out and say, when's the next cohort starting? So that's when you heard it here first, because you were live with us. End of the summer, we will be posting updates and alerts and things on the website shortly. But we want to have it aligned really well with the pre-apprenticeship program, so that as folks are rolling out of the pre-apprenticeship program, they'll be ready to jump right into the apprenticeship. And those that are ready to go can go right into the apprenticeship, and we're off to the races. And that's a year-long paid experience. We're getting paid to learn more and get yourself to the point where we can, at the end of the year, transition you into a full-time role at a pretty decent sized organization. We got another offer that's going to come down the pipeline. So this person's probably not listening right now, but there is someone that works for me that is about to get an offer for a permanent role. So that's always exciting. I usually know a little bit more in advance of the folks on the team. And yeah, so that'll be happening too. So that is exciting because it means we keep up our our stated goal, which is getting people jobs within that first year. We're batting 1,000. Everyone so far that's coming to the apprenticeship program has gotten a permanent role within a year doing software engineering. Not like maybe we'll bring them in doing something else. If they come in as a QA apprentice, we get them a job as a QA. If they come in as a software engineer, we get them a job doing software engineering. So that's the goal. 100%. Batting 1,000. How long can we keep that up for? I don't know. I can tell you that during COVID, I learned how to play the drums, and I have been playing the drums for 130 days straight. I would love to get to the streak of like, how long can we streak where we get every single person that comes into our program a job within the first year? I don't know, but I think we're going to do well. We're off to a good start, and that's exciting. That is the funnest part of the work that we do here, by far. So what questions do you have? Do we have a labor shortage? Is that why no one is answering me? The labor shortage. I like that. That means that lots of people are going to want to be calling my phone and signing up for apprenticeship partnerships. If you're a company and you are thinking about how do you find more diverse candidates? How do you find more women, Latinx, Black, neurodiverse, people that are native, people that are LGBTQ? We have a lot of diverse candidates from a variety of different backgrounds. And so, yeah, more than happy, hit us up and we will definitely see if we can connect you with the right fit and find people that have the skill set that matches the types of jobs and roles that you're looking to fill. That's what we do. We're pretty good at it too. If there are people interested in apprenticeships, are there any volunteer jobs helping people do the pre-apprenticeship work? We have volunteer roles. We don't have any like TAs, but it's interesting that you asked that because it may be something that we can do. So if somebody is interested in volunteering and being sort of like like an assistant or a mentor, always looking for that. We have a mentor network for professionals that are in the industry and are looking to give back, spend about an hour a month mentoring a apprentice. There's that opportunity. So yeah, I mean, there's a ton of different ways to engage. So I would say, yeah, certainly believe that there's a way that people can like make an impact and volunteer and help out. Mike Ingley, good to see you, hear from you as well. So Mike is a former graduate working out in the field, got a job right away. He hustled during this process. So if you're looking for a good role model of what to do, I remember the first time I asked Mike to show me his spreadsheet with his jobs that he applied to. It was like he ripped through like 60. I'm like, wait, Mike, you need to slow down. So that was I can remember vividly looking at that sheet and be like, you need to slow down and make sure you're following up with these folks. But he got a job really soon, right after finishing the program, because he kind of followed the process. And I think that absolutely, we always need help. We actually aren't running anything on the weekends. So I personally think it'd be interesting to see if we could do like a Saturday study group or a Sunday study group. And especially as the COVID subsides, we get back into the classroom, I think that'd be an interesting concept to see if we could have, maybe a student-led or volunteer-led study groups on the weekend to help people just kind of like knock it out. Because as you know, Mike, it's tough. The curriculum, it is not easy. But if it were easy, everybody'd be doing it. Nobody making any money doing it. So we gotta keep the bar, keep it high. All right. We're not getting into steady rhythm. I'm talking, and then when I stop talking, it takes a little while to get the messages, but we'll work it out. I haven't timed it yet to see what the actual delay is, but my guess is it's about a full minute. I bet it's about a minute behind, which is interesting. We got to get the zero lag. We got to get the real time so we can start playing games and stuff. I'm not willing to wait until we have quantum computing either, so we need to do this soon at LinkedIn. I mean, it takes a little while for it to, we got to capture it, we got to process it, we got to compress it and push it out through the pipeline. And then on the other end, you got to be able to grab it and get it sent back out to your browser. So I understand a little bit of a delay, but a minute, what do you got going on? Why am I on a minute delay? Like, you need to dump at any point. I could say something crazy and you have to dump like a minute. No, come on. Cannot be. So anybody out there that's looking to innovate, let's reduce the delay in streaming. Any other questions? It's pretty significant delay. I wasn't even aware that there's a delay with Bluetooth. So if you get like a Bluetooth headset, like I recently got nice fancy headphones and connected them to the TV. But when I was shopping for them, people were like warning, like, hey, you can't use Bluetooth. You can't use normal Bluetooth with your TV because there's a delay. It's out of sync. And I know from like learning to play the drums, you also cannot use headphones, wireless headphones, when you're trying to play the drums either. So there's enough of a delay where you'll just you'll get destroyed. But there's a new Bluetooth that's like a lower latency. So come on, if Bluetooth can do it, if they can do a lower latency, you're making me sit here and every time I stop talking, I gotta wait, and then someone will say something. And it's just our rhythm is all off. So while I'm talking right now, I'm begging of you, ask your question. So that way when I stop talking, there's a new question. We gotta like game the system. All right, if there are no other questions, that's great. That tells me that everybody is fully employed and that there's a labor shortage. So I need to go back to my workshop and I need to create more software engineers, which I will happily do. And then we'll do this again next week. We'll do it every Tuesday as long as there's people that are interested and have questions about the job search process. You can shoot me questions in between. So if you're watching this and you're like, how do I get my questions answered? Either jump on Tuesday or you can shoot me an email or respond via direct message, and I'll write it down, or more likely type it down. If that's a thing, I'll type it into my OneNote since we're a Microsoft shop, and then I'll remember to show it next week. I had somebody I was talking to earlier this week, yesterday, in fact, and I hope that he is or she, can't remember if it was a he or she, is watching today, because their approach was one of, if you know of any leads, let me know. And that was the red flag that like your job search is broken. Because if you're expecting other people to generate leads for you on where you should apply for jobs, you're not treating them like a job. Right? Like, treat the job search like a job. And that means you got to be organized and disciplined. And it's not something that you can delegate to strangers. So you can't ask me as a stranger to help you find a lead for what will be a good fit for you. That's an unreasonable ask. And it's going to take you a really long time to find a job if you're starting with those like unrealistic asks and expectations. Instead, the better question would be, hey, how can I find out how to get better at this process? Or I'm looking for tips on, how do I do a more effective either job search or reach outs or follow ups? So, very specific questions could be helpful, because that gives me a direction to kind of go in if you're asking like for help, or like join this session and participate instead of just expecting somebody else to ask the question on your behalf. You got to be brave. You got to be bold. You got to ask the questions that you need to help you in your process, because I'm telling you, a lot of folks are doing it kind of wrong, kind of bad, kind of inefficiently. And there are easy enough things to fix. Case in point, I spoke to someone just yesterday and I gave him feedback, which sometimes you will not get. In fact, most times you will not get from an employer after you interview. And I shared with the person that they sent me a super generic cover letter with like a sir, dear, or madam. And then after I shared that with them, they said, oh, well, I actually took the time to make it more generic because I wasn't sure who the person was that the letter was going to go to. And so my advice is, if someone asks you for a cover letter, whoever that person is that requests the cover letter, address it to that person and make it super personal and super dialed in about why you think you're the best fit for the job. It's not necessarily duplicative information from your resume, but it's like, what makes you, like, why are you the right fit for this job? That's the part where you can kind of explain and use all that puffery, right? How you're like, you're a really fast thinker and you learn quick and you're super involved, and like all of those little pufferys that you use to describe why you're the best fit. Use those with some substance behind them, show a little bit of your personality, and that will just strengthen your resume. If you do not have a cover letter, then work on one ahead of time so that while you're out there in the job search, you have sort of a stock standard thing that when someone asks for it, it's not like, oh, I don't really want to like take the work effort to write a cover letter because I can just apply to this other job. Man, the cover letter, if somebody's asking for that, that's a good sign. It means they want to take a little bit more time and they want to get a little bit more information than what usually fits on a resume. So that's a good signal. And unfortunately, a lot of people that are in the job search are unprepared for it. And so if I put out a job posting and I require a cover letter, I get less people that respond to it. That's not good. That tells me the only barrier between some people and the job is like, I don't know, 250 words. So my guess is lots of folks are winning right now, which is great. And this will remain on YouTube and be a resource for people when it starts getting a little bit more challenging again. And folks are like, the labor shortage is over. And now there's a surplus. And now people are having to really kind of struggle to find jobs. I'm kind of excited that there aren't as many people on this, because to me, it shows that maybe everybody's just getting plugged in and everybody's in good shape, which is awesome. I like hearing that. If you're not and you stumble across this, leave me a comment, send me a message, and let me know that, like, oh no, this is much needed. And then tell a friend and join next week so we can get this thing to keep pushing forward. All right, that's it for this week. I will chat with you next week, Tuesday, 12 noon. Every week we do the same thing. Later.